Hey, it's Huck, and I just wanted to post this short update. I feel terrible that I haven't been posting here. This is maybe the second longest stretch of period of time that I have had since I first began on YouTube back in 2010 without posting a video. My goal is always to post one or two a week. And it's been several weeks since I've been able to post. I just wanted to let you know. You all know that I'm dealing with, a lung condition. I guess it's like stage 4 COPD or whatever they want to call it. And I have, the good news is I have filed all of the paperwork into the law firm that's handling this for me in New Jersey, and I received some documents from the Social Security Administration asking me to fill out some more paperwork, which I was able to complete, and I keep a copy of everything for myself, and then I forward all of these things back to the law firm, which is how they want to handle it, and then they will submit it to the Social Security Administration. And the best of my ability to kind of guess of what's going on here is that my initial determination, I guess, is likely to come up sometime maybe around early January. At least that's what I'm hoping. I believe all of the medical information now has probably been compiled that they need. Hopefully it's all been submitted to the Social Security Administration. Clearly I'm qualified based on the criteria that they say they're looking for. So I'm not too concerned about whether or not I'm going to be able to get on Social Security disability. I am concerned that I'm going to be one of the many people that get rejected the first time and have to file an appeal before it's ultimately awarded. That would be devastating. I'm scrambling best I can to try to hold on to where I live, and it's beyond me how I'm going to be able to do that through January, but at least the possibility exists that I may be able to hold on to everything by then, but or till then. But beyond that, of course, you'd be looking at another. I think in Ohio the average is like a 559 day wait to have that second hearing, that appeal hearing. That's nearly 2 years. That's a good year and a half at a minimum. And well, at any rate, so I tend to be optimistic. I hope for the best, and I'm hoping everything's going smoothly. I know I've meticulously tried to provide the materials they requested. And another thing though that happened was here more locally, since I don't know, March or April, I've been on Medicaid and food stamps. And I just got another set of forms that had to be turned in, and that's to sustain, my ability to stay on Medicaid. And they wanted all of the dates that I had seen, whatever doctors or been to whatever hospitals and clinics. And compiling that information was, to get specific dates was actually a lot more time consuming and aggravating than I ever thought it would be. I finally was able to get that. Apparently I have seen my family doctor, I don't know, something like 48 times in the last they want you to go back, I think 18 months. And nearly 50 times I had seen my doctor in the last 18 months, the majority of that this year. And there were 7 hospital either emergency visits, or admissions. There were a couple of times I was at the hospital, merely to undergo some type of a test related to this, a bone scan to check whether or not the prednisone was affecting my bone density. Also related to a vitamin D test, an echo test of my heart, and blood tests and things. So anyway, all of that finally got turned in yesterday. And what's made all of this paperwork, and I'm guessing I haven't seen the end of it either. What's made this even more trying for me is that I have had over the last, 2 months, 8 weeks, 2 significant setbacks with my health, and I'm not completely over the second one even as I speak. I had some type of a flare-up, and my flare-ups have been a little less frequent than when I was working. I was getting them every 3 days or every week, which was causing me to miss tremendous amounts of work. Now, maybe because I'm not around as many people or whatever, I still get them though, but it seems like it's hard to kind of determine exactly what's triggering them in all cases. My dog had a really bad flea infestation here about 7 weeks ago, and I was going nuts trying to get rid of the fleas, and I don't like using the harsh chemicals, but I finally had to kind of, nothing else was working. I had given her a flea bath. For me to give my dog a bath is difficult in my condition. I often have to wear oxygen when I, have to exert myself if I'm not feeling my best, And anyway, I ended up giving him a flea bath. Did not seem to have much of an effect. I ended up using some other things, including, finally, as a last resort, I didn't want to do this, but I used a medication that you put on the dog's back, and not real happy about that, but it's finally cured the problem. And at any rate, as a result, I think, of being around all of those pesticides, perhaps, sparked a really bad flare-up of my condition. I went on an antibiotic, another round of prednisone, and at the completion of taking those medications, I felt good for about maybe 2 days. I remember one day, and specifically, I think it was the day after I came off the antibiotic, I couldn't believe how well I felt. It was like, wow, I haven't felt this good in really a while. And the very next day, it was kind of cool that day. It was rainy. I tried not to go outside much. But whether that was the trigger or whether it was something else, all I know is I immediately, had another flare-up. And within 3 days, I was worse than I had ever been before. And it was all I could do to get myself to the doctor's office. Literally was difficult for me to walk across, just from where I parked my car to get into the building. They immediately put me on another antibiotic, even though I had just finished up taking it. And again, I was kept on prednisone. And, so I've run the course of all of that now. And truth is, it never completely went away. I mean, I felt a little better, but some days I would be able to get around, maybe run to the store, pick up a few items and come back, but by late afternoon I was feeling terrible again. I've been going to bed really early. I've been using oxygen a lot, more than I would like, sleeping with it and having to use it late in the day. And finally, the other night, I discovered something about 4 days ago. I discovered that I was having difficulty swallowing. Something felt like food I had been eating or something wasn't going down and was stuck back there. And I kind of hard to look back there, but now this is going to be gross, so I don't want to really be too disgusting on this, but the fact is I had come down with a different type of infection related to, I think, the overuse of antibiotics. It's called thrush. I guess it's fairly common among people that have immune deficiencies, which heretofore I don't have any history of. At any rate, it forms as like a pus around the back of your throat. And it was clearly visible. There was quite a lot of it back there, and nothing seemed to get rid of it. And I didn't know exactly at the time what it was. I tried to look it up online and tried to get a hold of both my doctors, my specialist and my family doctor. Neither of whom were in. So I had an inkling of what it probably was. As it turns out, I was right. I went to emergency just to be sure. And so now I have a gargle, I don't know, nystatin or something. And I guess it's not wholly unrelated to like when women get yeast infections or something. But whatever, I'm a little alarmed at this, only in that, I've had to go on antibiotics a whole lot more than I would like. And this tells me that, one, I've been overusing antibiotics. My body is perhaps becoming immune to them. And what that means for future episodes I may have where I may need them doesn't seem to bode well. So these are all questions, at least, that I have. And concerns that I have that I need to have addressed. Then I'm going to go in and see my family doctor here on Monday, which I had previously scheduled, and I'm going to ask some of these questions to see, where that, whether or not I'm, right to be concerned or not. One of the things that really down the road kind of troubles me is, I just went in to see my specialist, my pulmonary doctor, just actually just earlier in the week. And I should have brought up this thing in my throat, but it had gone away for a day or two, and I didn't really, at that point, think anything of it. It was the next day that it kind of came back with a vengeance, and I couldn't get a hold of him, and I ended up going to emergency. But when I did see my pulmonary doctor again, he re-emphasized that he would like me to go up to the Cleveland Clinic and get an evaluation as a possible lung transplant candidate. And we kind of talked briefly about the mortality rates of what I have, and because frankly, I'm not anxious to undergo a procedure like a lung transplant where fully 60% of people who undergo it, at least, my relative age and health, aren't likely to survive the procedure, let alone, live for any length of time. My doctor convinced me that, nevertheless, it would still be worth my while to go ahead and get an evaluation and make a decision, whether to go through with it or not. I'm probably going to go ahead and, at least have those initial evaluations made. But again, this whole thing with the with this thrush infection in the back of my throat, tied to the overuse of antibiotics. Well, as I said, people that get lung transplants, the number one failure of that procedure is folks succumbing to infections, either immediately or shortly after, the operation. And so I'm a little concerned that my condition, one, may now make me either a poor candidate for this procedure, or two, maybe less likely to be able to endure the type of antibiotic treatments I'm sure that they give you as you are, recovering from the operation, and your body is, learning not to reject your new organs. So these are all questions and concerns that I have. I'm beginning to, I guess, take a whole lot more seriously about just how bad my condition actually is. So, at any rate, on that bright note, I just really wanted to let you know that, I'm okay, still at home, somehow managing to get through. I've had some pretty rough times this month. I mentioned that, like, all of the stack of paperwork that I've had to, submit. I've also had to go down to a local printer and get copies of everything that I'm turning in, so that I have a copy of everything. And I've so far spent, I think, something in the neighborhood of $18 just in getting copies of forms that, I've turned in. $18 I don't have to spare, because, let's face it, I'm managing to get by on about, maybe 2/3 of what my monthly expenses actually are. And, I've sold everything I seem to be able to sell, and have had no luck this month selling anything. So I'm way, way behind in things. Things are going to come to a head here probably before the end of the month. And I've got some really hard choices to make, and we'll deal with them as we can. So I thank you for paying attention this long. I'm sorry to drone on about my problems, but I did want to let you know why I haven't been able to post a video. I have been watching, and paying attention as best I can to some of the news. And I have a lot of things, politically I'd like to discuss on my political channel. So I'm hoping that I can put something together later today and post something on my political channel.